Yesterday, Bitcoin crashed below 100,000 bucks, which is an absolutely insane statement to be making. But many have been contemplating the end of the Bitcoin and crypto cycle. And in today's video, I want to be providing some statistics in the background as to why this is extremely unlikely. And in fact, February is probably going to be a pretty damn good month for Bitcoin, at least if history is anything to be going off of. There is something in the background as of right now pertaining to February that essentially has 100% hit rate. So I do think that, as always, that is a very, 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 very important facet to consider. And without further ado, we can just get into it right here. So what I've done in this chart is I've marked off all of the prior Februarys in Bitcoin's history, and then I've recorded the opens and closures for those months, and then gathered a bunch of data about what happened in February throughout Bitcoin's history. And I'll just cut to the chase right here. You can see the results. And I thought that it was incredibly interesting. February is actually one of the most bullish months historically for Bitcoin. In fact, it actually might be the most likely to be a positive closing month for Bitcoin. Now, when we look at the win percentage, or the positive percentage, if you want to call it that, it is just over 78.5%. That is if we include all of the data from the past 14 Februarys for Bitcoin. If we look into what the average return was for the winning February months, the average return was 26%, literally right on the dot. The median win return was a little bit lower at about 20%, but still, I'd say 20% move is fucking huge. I mean, think about it this way: 20% move at 100,000 bucks, that puts Bitcoin at 120,000, obviously. Anyways, on top of that, when we have seen losing Februarys, they have not been, I guess, super terrible compared to, what we typically expect. To be fair, there's only been three times in history where February was actually a loser in terms of closing negatively from the open to the close. And the average loss return was about 17.5%, and the median loss return was a little bit lower, closer to about 12%. Now, I want to dial in this data a little bit more, but before that, I will go through, what these numbers would essentially look like as far as the win returns and the loss returns. And so I'm going to make an assumption here. Understand that this is a massive assumption. Obviously, we still have 1, 2, 3 days left, as I check my calendar over here, in January to go, but I'm going to assume Bitcoin closes somewhere around 100,000 bucks. That this is just an assumption. That's it. Now, if Bitcoin were to obviously play out, the average win return, that's 26%. That put Bitcoin at about 128,000 bucks. Okay, not bad. Obviously, the median win return at 20% puts Bitcoin at about 122,000 bucks or so, depending upon where we, essentially close this month out. Again, if it is going to hit right on the averages, of course, we do expect some variance within this. But it would be relevant to say, statistically speaking, it's more relevant to be looking for February to be closing green. Now, of course, if it does close red, on average, we have seen a loss of about let's call it 20%. Where would that put Bitcoin? Or sorry, 17%. Where would that put Bitcoin? That'd put Bitcoin at 83,500 bucks. And if it goes for the median there, that'd be actually closer to 88.5, 90,000 ish. Essentially, the low of January thus far. So I want to take this one step further because, like I said at the beginning, there is a 100% hit rate pertaining to some of the information in February. And it's a very strange thing, but when I was going through the data, I noticed that the odd years were seemingly mostly positive. And when I actually documented that, well, they were 100% positive. In fact, every odd year in Bitcoin's history, February has been a nice gaining month. And I'll highlight it right here because we can see that the only red ones happened in 2014, happened again in 2018, and happened again in 2020 right here. Other than that, they've all been green. They've all been fucking green on odd years, which we have seen. How many odd years? I guess 7 now? Yes, something like that. Anyways, for what it's worth, if we do go off of that, I would say that February is again one of the most statistically speaking likely months to be bullish, and does boast some pretty nice returns. Now, again, there is going to be some variance in these returns. In fact, last February was a massive gainer at over 40% gains. But for the most part, you can see that a lot of these numbers here, just kind of cruising through it, are closer to 20%, I would say. With some outliers here and there. Anyways, other than that, we can jump back right on into it and continue on as I get my notes. Where the fuck did my notes go? My damn notes are escaping me right now. Yeah, so now let's get into the more short term. So again, this is kind of like the greater picture right here. That's essentially what I'm preparing for in February and why I still remain overall bullish. I don't think that this cycle is ending, or at least not right now. I mean, obviously at some point it very likely will, unless if there's an actual super cycle, but I don't believe in that. But at least for now, I do think that February is not the best time to be looking for on a cycle high, to put it lightly. Again, I can obviously be wrong on that, but let's go into the short term here and follow up on yesterday's short-term analysis. So in yesterday's video, we highlighted two major areas for Bitcoin to potentially put in a higher low. One of them was essentially the low of yesterday at around $97,500, the 618 Fibonacci retracement. And Bitcoin did hit around there and had a pretty fucking heroic bounce by the end of day. Now, of course, if this bounce does fail, I'd still be looking somewhere down around here in this red circle. Let's just call it between 91 to 93,500 bucks. But for right now, it's very possible that Bitcoin might have even just seen the low from yesterday. I wouldn't extrapolate too much on that as of right now. I don't actually see any easy way to confirm this as a local low in the short term. I mean, if we go to a line chart here, I'd have to say you'd really have to trade and close above Saturday's closure. So, looking at it, that's obviously well and far away. That would be actually close to 105,000 bucks. But for right now, with Bitcoin back at the 382, essentially on a closing basis, that if Bitcoin spends some time going sideways here, this is going to look a lot like the next major higher low for Bitcoin, which would be very significant because it'd be the confirmation of this trend reversal from downtrend to uptrend, the downtrend beginning in middle of December from this high, and the uptrend beginning from January 13th rally, which did produce a higher high, and now we're just looking for a higher low. So could this be the next higher low? It's definitely possible, but I suspect it's going to take at least like 2 to 3 days to confirm if this is like an actual higher low or not, or if things do head lower. Until it is confirmed, I would keep an open mind that Bitcoin could very easily retrace, and again, could very easily put in a higher low somewhere down around here. I mean, that would still be a higher low. So anyways, moving on from there, I wanted to get in some HPDR analysis really quickly, and then we'll get into some daily statistics. But again, Bitcoin on the weekly HPDR bouncing perfectly off the 38.2 level. I do think it's quite aggressive to bounce and find a low off there, but hey, it is what it is. Just following up on that from yesterday. I mean, so far so good, I guess. So that'd be a point in the bulls, corner. But if we go over here to the next higher term timeframe closures for Bitcoin to kind of get an overall bias on direction, the 5-day time frame did actually reclaim the median on CME with the last 5-day closure. And we're going to have another one, actually not today, not tomorrow, but the day after that, 2 days before the day after tomorrow, which is Thursday. It's doing some bad mental math. If Bitcoin can close above the median here, I would say that would be very likely a good indication that the higher low is in. And the median for right now is at 103,750 bucks. So if Bitcoin can close above there, again, on Thursday's closure, that would probably be good enough for me to say, hey, lower prices very unlikely here. It's probably going to be not up only, but generally sideways and up, with areas of interest somewhere around 120 to 130 for February, which is something that we've been saying a lot on this channel over the past couple of months now. So, we'll obviously see. I mean, this only time will tell on this one. If Bitcoin does close right at the median or a little bit below the median, then that still opens up the possibility for a deeper correction, like I said, down to the very low 90s. But even then, if Bitcoin came to the low 90s, I'm not bearish off that. At least I'm looking for a big bounce. And personally, with February statistics in mind, I think that it would very likely be a major opportunity. That's just my opinion. Anyways, for the long term here, I want to remind myself that the monthly HPDR is at a very interesting and precarious place as well. If you recall yesterday, the monthly was actually below the median on the HPDR. As of right now, with 3.5 days left to go for January, we actually do see that Bitcoin is above the median on the monthly. That number that it needs to close above by the end of this month is $99,500. I would just round that up to $100,000, to be nice and even and give it a little bit of a body above the median. But if Bitcoin does close above the median, I'm going to look for a general rally somewhere close to the 38.2 level right here. Now, this will shift around. It might come a little bit down on the next open. I don't know exactly where it's going to go towards, but ultimately, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to fill out this space over here, because we actually haven't even seen Bitcoin reclaim the monthly HPDR since February of last year, actually. February of last year on this rally right here. It reclaims it on a closing basis, tests all the way up to the 38.2 level, boom, corrects. And even since this rally, in the more, recent times began in, November, on the major breakout, it actually did not close above the monthly HPDR median during any point during November and December. So January will have a chance. If January closed above, that would be a major confirming factor to me that February stats are probably going to be playing out. Now, Bitcoin doesn't necessarily need to go all the way up to the 38.2 level on the next, on the next month. That being February, it could take multiple months. You see this one over here takes 2 months to get there. This one over here actually took 3 months or 4 months to officially test right there. And so on and so forth. You get the idea. But the general trajectory, would be rather nice. So we'll see what happens. Realistically, we only have to wait 2.5 and then 3.5 days for both of those major confirmations. And, that would make the long term, at least in my opinion, a little bit more easy. Anyways, looking at some daily statistics right here, just wanted to point out Tuesday is basically a coin flip as whether it's likely to close positive or negatively since 2024 began. And as far as the average returns for both the winning and losing Tuesdays, we can kind of come up with a range here with the highs at around $104,000 and the lows at around $99,500. Anything between there doesn't really, is basically within the data set. So it's probably where we find things for today. Like I said, Bitcoin kind of hanging around this region, trading sideways within this region for the next few days, I do think will bode well for the Bitcoin BULAs, especially as, time just gets chewed up. It's like a race against time right now to just close above $100,000, especially by, is it Friday? Yeah, Friday's the last day of this month. And even, even the next major closure that we spoke about coming in on Thursday as well. So, these things are going to be a big focal point of my analysis, and perhaps it might even be interesting to you as well. And I'll just leave it at that note. Of course, if you do find this content valuable, then please do consider subscribing. It helps get these videos actually to you if that's your interest, if that's of your interest. Other than that, is there anything else I wanted to go over here? Nah, I don't think so. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin kind of get a little more boring here into the end of the month, but that's where we'll end things for today. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of the best. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to all the people who've been leaving feedback on the chatbot for both the Quant Prime AI and the Trade Like a Quant program, because it has been massively useful. I really appreciate people using the chatbot there that is essentially, designed to run you through the course content and help you out and be like a little crown, in your pocket, a little crown slave telling you his thoughts. And of course, the more that you use it, I want to continue to encourage people to use it, because the more that you use it, the more that I can fine tune it to incorporate my knowledge base, and then it just gets better over time. I mean, at this point, it's probably just better than me, honestly. Anyways, that's where we'll end things for today. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Wednesday.